All right, so question 20 is making those named ranges, but from a whole table, all with just a few clicks. All right, how do we do that? Well, I've got my table of data right here, and I am going to select it, go to Formulas, Create from Selection. I'm only going to select the top row. You can mess around with the left column if you want to learn what that does, but we're just going to do top row. That's going to use the top headers to make our named ranges. Hit OK. Now, if I select this range right here, you can see that it's called date. Same thing with this. They got rid of the spaces and it just calls student underscore ID. And our last column is called behavior referrals with an underscore. So that's super handy. We can go to our formulas here. And I'm not going to replace both of them so that if you're just messing around with this Excel sheet, you can see what it looks like. But I am going to change behavior referrals here. And I can hit Tab and Enter. And now my named range is everywhere in here. So that's question 20. Question 21, use data validation to force a cell to hold only the values cornerstone or vanguard. All right, well, I'm gonna make this cell right here, which I will color yellow so we can see that something's happening with it. And to do data validation, we're gonna go to data, we're going to go to, let's see here, this little button on my screen, which is validation. We're going to, instead of allow any value, we're going to pick list. And my list is right here. So I'm going to click on the source, pick that, hit OK. And now we can only pick cornerstone or vanguard. If we hit something else, it'll yell at us. All right, and there we go. That's question 21. Question 22, create a list, add some color to the cells in the list, and then sort it by color. Well, we've got right here, we've got a list, we've got some color. Let's go ahead and, let's go ahead and add a filter here. So I selected it and I can do Control-Shift-L, or I can go up here and I can click filter. Now when I hit filter, I can sort by color. This is handy if you have duplicates and you want to sort those by the color, which if you use conditional formatting, they'll have color. So I can go ahead and sort by whatever color I'd like. All right, question 23. I'm going to do question 23, then I'm going to go back to question 12. Use the group feature to hide columns. Well, I've added at the top here, I've added some columns. Well, we already have columns, but I've added some data in columns. And let's say that I want to hide some of this because let's say all these sub A columns are not really super helpful. I can go to data and I can hit group by. Where did my group by go? It's hiding on me. Where is my group by hiding? I do not know what's going on. Let me make sure. Let's see what else I've got here. I don't believe it's any of these. It should be under data. I feel like my window is really small. Here we go. It was hiding. It was hiding because I don't have much space on my ribbon. It was under outline. Yep. So we're going to hit group. If I had selected rows, it would group the rows, but I've selected columns. So it's going to add grouping to the columns. I can click this and it hides everything else. And same thing with B. Data, outline, group. There you go, just another way. There are other settings that you can use so that this grouping is not on the right but on the left. But I tend to prefer it on the right. In this exact case, I probably would want that one on the left, but it's all right. You can minimize all these by clicking the 2 or the 1. 1 minimize, 2 expands them all. Or you can just go one at a time. But I think we're good there. All right, that was question 23. And now we're going to go to question 12. What question 12 is about is getting this wide data here, which I have 1 row per person, and getting into this long format like you see here. You can see I have my name repeated 3 times, Kristen's name 3 times, 1 for each of the tests that we have here, and then the scores are here. So this is long data. How we're going to do that, I'm going to break this up in a couple steps for you as we walk through it. How we're going to do that is we're going to use index. Now, index, if you remember, all it really does, it's normally used with match, but you don't have to use it with match. Index wants an array, which just means an area that we're looking at. So I'm just going to choose this. I'm going to lock that. Whoops. All right, I'm going to lock that. And then the row number, you can see here that I've added in these row numbers just to show you it. I'm going to calculate the row numbers in a second, but right now you can see that to get Kenley, all I want is to do row number 1. And that's basically it. I'm going to be in my array that in the source data, I'm just using column 1, and I get Kenley. So that's how index works. It just looks at this source table and it returns whatever row I want or whatever column I want within my table. And if I have a formula that just says 111, I'll just get Kenley, Kenley, Kenley. And if it says 222, I'll just get Kristen, Kristen, Kristen. Well, for the test, I'm going to use index, but because test was going along the top, we're actually going to select this, and instead of the using that row 1, I'm going to use this column. I just want 1, 2, 3. I want that repeated 3 times. And oh, excuse me. Actually, I want the first row, and then I want the column repeated 3 times. So there we go. I got test 1, 2, 3. So the key here, and of course score, is we can just use index match the same way. In this case, we're gonna pick the row and the column. And you can see here that we get our data. But the problem is that if you have a lot of data, these you don't want to write all these numbers down. I just manually wrote these down. But that's not going to be great because that's a lot of typing, and that sort of defeats the purpose. So how are we going to do that? We are going to use a couple functions. The first function is going to be row. So if we just did row, we would get row 10 because we're in row 10. Well, you can do a little adjusting by say minus this header row, row, and instead of just doing nothing in the parentheses, you can click on a cell and it'll tell you the row of that one. I'm just going to lock that. So this header, you can see that now we have just the row within here. Okay, so that's handy, but it doesn't get us 111 or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I think we can quickly see how we could get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, this one is just divided by 2, right? Well, actually, that's not quite right, but I think we can do something about dividing because this is 1, 2, 3. This is just the same idea, but shifted over again, right? So if we would just subtract 3 off every single time, probably could get something with the right columns. Okay, in fact, I think we'll do something like that for the test. But if we want to get 111, how could we do that? We're going to do a really handy function called mod. What does mod do? It gives us the remainder. So I'm going to take the row, and I'm just going to do an example. I'm going to divide it by 2. Let's see how this goes. Actually, I should be dividing it by 3. This is not all stuff that I memorized. And you notice we have a great pattern here. Ooh, this is looking great. Actually, this is looking better for this column function. So that's actually looking great. All we would need to do here is add 1 to it, I believe. No, that's not quite right because we have the 1 in the wrong place. So I think that we need to go here, and instead of just using the current row, let's add 1 and let's see what happens. That was wrong. I think I want to subtract 1. This is how I do it every time. This is a little ridiculous. I actually don't do this too much nowadays, but it's just a fun exercise in what you can do in Excel. All right, I did it right there. All I did was I took the current row, which was an M10, I subtracted 1, I divided by 3, got the remainder, and then added 1 back again. This is just a little trial and error, but you can see that I got the right numbers. All right, so let's call this our row from formula. Rather, I'm sorry, that was the column from the formula. All right, now row. How are we gonna get the row from the formula? Well, I think that we can just divide. Let's see if we can just divide and round. I believe I've been doing something like that. So, yeah, how many times does it go in? I think that if we do 3 again, let's try this, equals that divided by 3. Let's see what happens. Yep, this is looking pretty good. Okay, so if we divide this by 3, but we just do round up, and we say 0, meaning we want an even number. Woohoo! We can divide the row by 3, and then we add 1, or rather we round it up to that, and we get our row from formula. All right, so now I can just, if I wanted to, I could replace this. In fact, here I will go ahead and instead of using this F10, I'm going to use that. And instead of G10 here, I'm going to use that. And here I have both F10 and G10. And now I have our full table, long, using formulas only. And you can see here I used row, used mod, and I used roundup to get this long table. So there you go. Doesn't look super pretty, but this is really handy to realize that you can do all kinds of crazy stuff in Excel. I hope you like that. All you data nerds out there, have a good one.